Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day I'm going to be making my final 2024 NHL Mock Draft featuring the top 65 picks in this year's draft. We're going to be going through every single team and every pick, seeing who's most likely at each spot, where every single player could go, and what each team really wants in this draft, with the reports on each player and more. So make sure you watch till the end for all of the predictions, all of the picks throughout the first couple rounds, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this. This is a big one, folks. Every like, every sub is appreciated. Now we're going to get started at first overall and make our way down. But of course, this first overall pick is not a surprise whatsoever to the San Jose Sharks. Will be Macklin Celebrini. I don't have to explain this one. Celebrini's going number one. Let's move on. But after first overall is where things get interesting, and this is where it completely opens up the rest of the draft. And at second overall, we're going to go to Chicago, who I think right now is either between Levshunov or Demidov. That to me is the top two locked in, especially after Demidov's new testing results, after the height, after the weight, after his English speaking. To me, I think Chicago is going to be pretty close between the two, but I still think of how much the overall franchise favors one of them, I think it will ultimately be Artyom Levshunov selected second for Chicago. Even though I prefer Demidov as a prospect, Levshunov still brings a ton of potential, and especially on that right side, they're pretty thin for a top pair D, and Levshunov will hopefully solve that issue. Now going on to third overall in the Anaheim Ducks, I mean, they're all over the place. I could even see them being in the Ivan Demidov race with the new updates we've had recently, but I think it either is between Caden Lindstrom or a multitude of D, and Sam Dickinson, Carter Yakimchuk, and most likely Anton Silayev. But I do think the most likely pick will end up being Caden Lindstrom, especially if the Ducks are going to trade Zegras this offseason. To me, I think adding another top 6 forward for the future makes sense with how much Pat Verbeek loves his power forwards, with the size, with the skill set, with the offensive potential. There's a lot to love with Caden Lindstrom, and to me, I think Anaheim will adore this guy. The only thing that could hold him back is a potential herniated disc injury. If that's serious, I could see Lindstrom dropping, but if it's not, I think Anaheim takes him. Next, we go on to fourth overall in the Blue Jackets. They're honestly one of the bigger wild cards, considering, of course, the new management in Don Waddell. We'll see what direction he ends up going, but I went a little bit off the board here. I still think they will take a defenseman, but I think it's going to be Sam Dickinson. I don't think Columbus with Don Waddell at the helm will take Silayev, just because I think Waddell would want maybe more offensive ceiling there. I think in Dickinson's case, he could bring a great overall two-way game to the next level, and he's somebody that I think Columbus could really build around as that middle pair guy behind Werenski, and they could take him in any direction, which I think will be incredibly valuable for them. If they're going to take a defenseman, I think it'll either be between Dickinson or Silayev, but I just think with the more offensive tools that Dickinson has, I think that'll get him the edge in the end. And then we go on to fifth overall in the Montreal Canadiens. This is a slam dunk, even though there has been some smoke and mirrors out there that maybe the Habs aren't going to be selecting Demidov. To me, it's going to happen. I mean, especially at this time of the draft process, it feels like whatever is out there for Montreal, expect the opposite. And in Demidov's case, he's exactly what Montreal needs as a player that can push pace, have some electrifying offense. They've needed a prospect like this for a long time now, and they got it at fifth overall. Next up is sixth overall in Utah. Of course, with them selecting Dmitry Simashev last year as a left-handed D, I actually think they'll go for a right-handed D this year and actually skip on Anton Silayev, picking Carter Yakimchuk out of the Calgary Hitmen. He has a right-shot D, though, fills a lot of the boxes that Arizona has wanted out of their defense recently. Big guy with some physical intensity. I don't think is the greatest skater or really ever will be, but there is some offense potential there, and I think a team like Utah is really going to be all over that. Which leads us on to number 7, and at this spot, I honestly think it's between Anton Silayev and TJ Ginla for the Ottawa Senators, but considering he's available at that spot, I don't see the Sens passing up on Silayev, especially considering a player like Sam Dickinson, who I think they would have prioritized usually is off the board. I think Silayev is a guy that Ottawa would still be pretty happy with the tools, with the size, with the skating ability. There's a lot to build on with Silayev, and we'll see if Ottawa is able to make it work. Next up at number 8, we got the Seattle Kraken, and to me, they're taking a D no matter what, and it's been really Zane Parek's spot to lose for so long now, but the more I think about it, the more I think that Zbium actually makes even more sense. To me, with the transition ability, with the intensity on the puck, I think that's something that Seattle will really appreciate in Zbium's game. I mean, he to me is the best defenseman in this draft and has the best offensive potential, and to me with Seattle, there's a lot to unlock there, and that's somebody that, especially with the offensive D they've already drafted, can be the top tier guy there, especially with Vince Dunn is already on the roster. You got a guy that can mentor him in the right ways there, and in Buem's case, I think there's so much potential to unlock, and in Seattle's case, I think they'll love to have a project like that. Now at number 9, we go on to maybe the perfect situation for the Calgary Flames, and that is selecting TJ Ginla 9th overall. They also got a ton of the top tier D already off the board, so they don't really have to have much of a guilty conscience for drafting him, but the intensity, the work ethic, the hard-nosed play, Calgary's gonna love that, and of course, he's Ginla, and and that's just a natural fit with the Calgary Flames. Now at 10th overall, we have a trade to announce between the Devils and the Sharks. The Sharks and Devils are exchanging the 10th and 14th overall picks, and to New Jersey will go Mario Ferraro. There would be more to the package involved, but now the Sharks leapfrog a few picks, and at 10th overall, they're going to select Cole Eiserman. Now, sure, could San Jose go for a D? Absolutely. But to me, at 10th overall, you get the BU pairing of Celebrini and Eiserman together, best friends for life, now in San Jose, and also with Mike Greer's connection to Boston University, how big of a player he was there, and how much he loves his BU guys, Cole Eiserman, to me, makes a lot of sense there. And then you'd have a core coming up of Celebrini, Eiserman, Will Smith. I mean, you can think about the defense later. That's too tantalizing to pass up on. Now, the draft being shaken up quite a bit, at 11th overall, the Buffalo Sabres will select Beckett Seneca, somebody that's been rising a ton on draft boards, and I think on draft day, will also have that same result. Big size, big frame, he's been able to use his skill set and his drive and his one-on-one ability so well this year in the OHL and in the OHL playoffs. And I think the potential that Seneca has, Buffalo's going to be all over it. And at 12th overall, the Philadelphia Flyers, this is one of the biggest reasons why the Sharks ended up trading up in the draft, because I think the Flyers would automatically take Cole Eiserman. But now at 12th overall, I think they're going to select Berkly Catton, who as a center coming up with Matthew Michkov will be a great duo. The smarts, the agility, the great decision making. Berkly Catton has just a lot of translatable ability, and he's somebody that I think Philly will really love. They like to go for that top end potential with their first pick in the draft, and I think Danny Briere is going to get another big dub here. Next up at 13th overall, and kind of like the same situation with Calgary and TG Ginla, I think this 13th overall spot is a perfect position for the Wild to select Zane Parekh. And to me, it kind of negates the possibility of Konsta Helenius if a D like Parekh is available. And even though he couldn't be Brock Faber's line mate, considering he's a right D, he to me with the offensive potential is someone that still has a lot to give. And in Minnesota's system could be the exact type of offensive defenseman they could really use, honestly. I feel like, especially with Corey Proment's report too, that he's the most likely top end guy to drop in this draft. 13th overall does make sense. Now at 14th overall, the New Jersey Devils, this is also a pretty perfect situation. They get a D, and at 14th overall, they select one of the most NHL ready players in Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, somebody that's had a great season in the Allsvenskan, going to transition onto the SHL next season. But I would say give him 1 year and he'll be a player you could automatically put in your bottom 6 with the intensity, the shot, with the work ethic every single shift. Devils fans are going to love this kid. At 15th overall, next we go on to the Detroit Red Wings, and sure, have they drafted a lot of centers recently? Absolutely, but I don't think they'll be able to pass up on Konsta Helenius at this spot. And he could also play wing if you really want him to, but I think the smarts, the quickness, especially with his decision making and the agility there, I think Detroit loves this specific type of player. Helenius is right in that lane too, and will just be more of what Eiserman loves. And at 15th overall too, that's some pretty great value. Now on to 16th overall in the St. Louis Blues. I think there's a lot of people out there mocking them with different forwards, but to me, they do need to add to that defense in the prospect pool, and I think in doing so, they'll select EJ Emery, who to me brings a ton of great physical tools, an incredible skating floor, and somebody that with the intensity, with the athletic ability he has, is just somebody I see GMs being all over. I would honestly be shocked at this point if Emery wasn't a top 25 pick, but I think St. Louis jumps ahead of the curve and tries to get a potential middle pairing D, which is exactly what I could see Emery turning out to be. Now at 17th overall, the Caps could be all over the place with this pick, but I think they'll end up selecting Michael Hage, who has been rising in stock a little bit over the last few weeks. He's somebody that though has an incredible tool set offensively, just thinks the game very well, is able to connect with his teammates incredibly well too. And as a centerman, I could absolutely see him becoming this solid second line guy in the future for the Caps, and somebody that will just be a big part of their team. Maybe he could play wing as well if you really need him to, but I think just the offensive tools he has and the diverse tool set will be something that the Caps really appreciate. Now at 18th overall in the Chicago Blackhawks, especially if they were to select Levshunov with the second overall pick, to me, Igor Chernyshov is a lock at 18th. He, to me, as a power forward with that forward group coming up, they need some bulk, they need some power forward ability, and Chernyshov with the physical traits, with just how good he is on the puck, how much of a hound he can be, he's somebody that, even though he won't overwhelm you with the skill, will just be a great overall pro player and a great middle six piece to have. Now, at 19th overall with Vegas, I would not be surprised if this player were to fall outside the top 25 with the off-ice issues there are there, but at 19th overall, I see the Vegas Golden Knights selecting Trevor Connolly, somebody that I think just has overwhelming skill. He's someone that is just individually so talented, so good with the puck. He can be a wizard, especially around the net. He's somebody that just brings so much in that category with the puck possession, with the passing ability, and I think Vegas is just going to bet on that offensive potential. There are question marks there with the translatability, but at this point, I think Vegas is just going for best player available. Now to the New York Islanders, who haven't had a first round pick for a very long time, but at 20th overall, to me, Sacha Boisvert just makes makes so much sense. He's a Lou Lamoriello player through and through. Big body with some developing traits, very smart positionally, somebody that has a great shot too, and just a lot of tools to work around. Even though I don't think he's the greatest skater in the world, and that could definitely hold him back, he's somebody that I think Lou is going to be all over with the potential that could be there and the power forward game you could get. At 21st overall, the LA Kings, this to me is also an easy lock in Liam Greentree. He just brings so much that I think LA likes with the puck possession, with the dominant physical traits. He's somebody that I think as well with LA, not really caring too much over the years over their skating levels with prospects. Greentree, of course, has his issues there, but LA is the exact type of team to not really worry about that and just bet on the overall tools and the brain that Greentree has. Now at 22, the first of many Preds picks inside this top 65, and next up I got Jet Luchenko, somebody that I think is just going to be a really high riser in this draft. The intensity, the incredible IQ he has for a smaller player. He's someone that is just such a good teammate, such a good leader, such a great connector of plays, and I think for the Preds, especially the youth he has, with the leadership he has already, is something they will really like in their organization. Unfortunately, at 23rd overall, to me, the Leafs would have been all over Luchenko, but I think they're going to go for Cole Baudouin now that they don't have the opportunity, who I still think is a great center. Not as high on my board just because I don't think there's as much offensive potential there, but he is a bang and crash forward, incredible forechecker, and intense speed. He's going to be somebody that, even though he's a little bit one-dimensional in the way he plays, he brings a great forechecking game, and that's really the bread and butter. At 24th overall in the Colorado Avalanche, I was really debating where to put this player on this list, but I could see him going as high as this spot, and for the Colorado Avalanche, they're going to bet on potential here in Dean Letourneau. And sure, they draft Callum Ritchie recently, yes, but I think they're going to go for the most potential possible. And in Letourneau's case, there's so much gifted talent with the size that he has, with the skating ability, the IQ there too, the way that he's already able to stitch plays together and create around the net. He's somebody that is still quite raw, but also the Avs can wait for him to become the best player he could be. Now at 25th overall in the Ottawa Senators, with them taking Anton Silayev with their first pick, I don't think they're going to be done drafting D, but they're going to go to the right side here in Charlie Elick, somebody that I absolutely see being a late first rounder. He's somebody that I have a little bit lower just because I don't really see much offense there, especially with the puck on his stick, but he does have some good physical traits, and the skating ability is really the biggest strength for him. We'll see, because I still think he's quite raw at this stage, even for a defensive defenseman, but I think the traits that he has will entice Ottawa quite a bit. Next up at 26th overall in the Montreal Canadiens, having their second first round pick, I go with Emil Hemming. They get Ivan Demidov for the left side, Hemming for the right, and in Hemming's case, he brings some great physical traits, intensity with the puck, and a great shooting ability, and he's someone that I think could be a really solid third line guy, maybe even max out as a second line forward. Now at 27th overall, and the Carolina Hurricanes, they like to go all over the place, and they will continue that, drafting Lucas Pettersson, one of the flashiest players of this draft. And even though I have my questions around translatability for the Canes, they've been just drafting pure offense and pure potential really throughout the last few years, and that will continue with this pick. Now with the Calgary Flames' second pick in the first round, kind of like the Habs, you're going to go for a left winger first in Iginla, and on the right side, they're going to go for Adam Yeko, who with the Edmonton Oil Kings has been a really fascinating player to watch. 6'5", 201 pounds, just has intense tools offensively, and as someone that if he's able to turn it around could be a great forward. Doesn't really use his skating ability or physicality as much as you'd like right now, but is someone that could really turn into something special if he does. Next up at 29th overall, in my favorite team of the Dallas Stars, I think they'll end up selecting Dominik Badinka. I think they do need a right D in that prospect pool. Badinka, of course, checks that box, but great physical traits, good skating ability. He's someone that you just stash over in Sweden for a few years to continue developing the decision making, and you get a solid middle pair D out of it someday. Now at 30th overall, the New York Rangers, I think Dean Letourneau would have made a lot of sense for them here, but at this spot, I think they're going to go for Ryder Ritchie. They've really loved the WHL over the past few years, and I think that will continue with this. He's very raw, very young, but I think brings some great offensive potential with the shot, with the aggressiveness there. He's somebody that I think the Rangers are also willing to wait on, but somebody that could be a very solid second line piece, honestly, if everything turns out. And going on to the last couple of picks of the first up with the Anaheim Ducks with their second pick, I see them going for Stian Solberg. I think Charlie Elick would have been a perfect fit for them, but I think Solberg, with the physical traits, with the violence he brings, he is somebody that will just crush you if you try to oppose him, and Anaheim, of course, is going to love that. Are you kidding me? That's Pat Verbeek's love right there. And then finishing off the first round with the Philadelphia Flyers, their last pick in the draft, I got Jesse Pulkkinen. This is somebody that I can also see the Anaheim Ducks being in on. Even though I have my issues with his skating ability, there has been a lot of progression over the past couple of years offensively. He's somebody that loves jumping the play, brings some great passing ability, and for the Flyers, they need to add to that defense. They went for Bonk last year, and they go for Pulkkinen this year. Now we're going to go a little bit rapid fire here with the second round picks, and starting us out with the Sharks, I see them selecting Adam Kleber. Of course, they selected Celebrini and Eiserman first, but Kleber with the physical traits, the agility, and a growing offensive game, I think the Sharks are really going to love him at this spot. With the second pick, I see Will Scan going to the Chicago Blackhawks. They're also, of course, in need of some more juice on that defensive side, and with Scan, I could absolutely see him becoming this violent bottom pair D. At the third spot in the second round, with Anaheim at 35th overall, I see them selecting Tarek Parasak. He's somebody that with the intensity on the puck, the drive around the net, he might not have the greatest physical tools, but I can see the Ducks betting on the potential IQ there. At 36th overall in the Columbus Blue Jackets, I see them selecting Maxim Messe. He's somebody that is just able to handle opposition very well, especially bigger pressure. He's somebody that I can absolutely see becoming a solid third line checking forward for Columbus. Next up at 37, and actually the Winnipeg Jets' first pick in the draft, I see them going for Ben Danford, who just brings a lot of good translatable ability with the IQ, with the aggressiveness defensively. I don't think has the structure or really the consistency to be a top end defensive D, but I could see a bottom pair D out of him someday. At 38th overall, we go on to Utah, who selected Carter Yakimchuk first. I see them going for Igor Shurn at this spot. Really under the radar is Russian center, somebody that just brings some great one-on-one skill, good play along the boards, good intensity too. He just has such a good ability to work every single shift to get what he wants, and I think for Utah, they'll adore that. A similar player here at 39th overall for Ottawa will be Sam O'Reilly. They're definitely going to take a forward here, and O'Reilly makes a ton of sense. He could be somebody I could see going inside the first round with the intensity, the work ethic, the absolute dog in him, working around the boards and winning almost every single battle. Ottawa is going to love him, especially as a third line. At 40th overall in the Seattle Kraken, they like to go for big swings in the second round, and I think they will continue that with Andrew Basha. They also love the WHL too. I think with the speed, with the skill set he has, especially up the ice in transition, he's someone I think the Kraken will like quite a bit. At 41st overall in the Calgary Flames, I think we could go for a D here, considering the win for Iginla and Dzeko before. I think it will be Leo Saline Helenius, someone I'm a lot lower on just because I feel like he's going to need to play more of a defensive style at the NHL level, and I just think with the frame and the IQ, it's not going to translate incredibly well, but he does have some good tools, decent skating ability, and I think a good puck moving ability around the net too, and he's someone I think the Calgary Flames could turn into something. At 42nd overall in the San Jose Sharks, they're going to go for another D here in Cole Hutson. The BU connection, it's happening, folks. We could have Celebrini, Eiserman, and Cole Hutson all on the same team, drafted by the same team next year. I just need to see it happen. At 43rd overall in the Buffalo Sabres, I think they're going to be targeting a right D in this spot, and I think they'll go for Henry Mews out of Ottawa. He's someone that brings intense IQ. He's someone that is just able to make quick decisions with the puck as well, and even though I don't think there's high-end talent besides the smarts and especially the quickness around the net, to me, he's something that I could see turning into a bottom pair D, and for Buffalo, I think that's exactly what they want at this spot. Now we keep it going here at 44th overall in the first of the Penguins' two picks in the second. I think they'll go for Luca Morelli at this spot as a right D. He's someone that has a very balanced game. I don't think has incredible tools or anything, but he's someone that plays a little more offensive, loves to join the rush, and that is pretty commendable. We'll see if Pittsburgh is able to turn him into something there. Next up at a spot that I think is pretty fascinating, at 45th overall, I think the Minnesota Wild are going to end up selecting Julius Miettinen, who is somebody that with them drafting already Zane Parekh, and you're going to look on the forward side, great physical tools, and somebody that was really good in the second half in the WHL. He's someone that brings a good shot, is still quite raw at this stage, but somebody that has been quickly getting better and better. Next up at the second Penguin spot, I got Nikita Artamonov. He's someone I think will drop just because of the lack of clear-cut role. He brings some good speed and good intensity, but not a ton of skill to project as a skilled forward, and not the greatest frame to project as a power forward, but I think the Penguins are going to take the risk and see if they can turn him into something. Next up at the 47th spots, and this is another Detroit pick, I got Eriks Matejko, somebody that in the QMJHL, also like Miettinen, had a better second half, but great physical tools. He's somebody that along the boards can just absolutely dominate and will his way to the puck. He's someone that I think just has growing offensive skills, and that's to me the biggest thing that will push him forward if he's able to develop his shot too and really create more offense by himself. But he's someone that I think will be a physical forward no matter what. Next up at the number 48th spot, I got Linus Eriksson, one of the more translatable forwards, especially in the second round. He's just very balanced, very compact, knows where to be, knows how to feed his teammates. He's someone that has just been a consistent player on the Allsvenskan and the World Juniors. I think for St. Louis will be a really under the radar bet and likely a pretty good third line player going forward. And next up at the 49th spot to Utah again, I'm going to go for a D here and go for Lucas Fischer. He's one of the younger players in this draft class and incredibly raw. He looks like it. There are times where he just gets beat or doesn't make the right play, but man, there are some highlight reel moments here, and he really wants to be this great offensive defensive D. We'll see if he is able to do that, but I think Utah, with the patience that will be needed, will be one of the teams to take a flyer on. Now, at 50th overall, this is one of the bigger locks of the draft, in my opinion, and that is Tanner Howe. To me, Chicago is going to find a way to draft him no matter what. It might even be with that 34th overall pick, but of course, Connor Bedard, former teammates. I think Howe would be pretty fun in Chicago, though, with the intensity, with the IQ. I don't think there's anything special about him, especially offensively, but I think he could be a decent third line forward for the Blackhawks, and if he needs to be with Bedard, then so be it. And then at 51, Philadelphia has had a stupendous draft so far, and I think that will continue by selecting Teddy Stiga. He's somebody that I've loved with the intensity and just the great overall play. He's somebody that has been really balanced and has continued to work on his strength, on his conditioning, winning puck battles, and getting to the net. He's somebody that I think also just as a complementary player will be perfect. And you could have Stiga, Berkly, Catton, Matthew Michkov. Those three would be unreal together. Now at 52, and starting us out with the goaltending landslide, I think once one is picked, we're going to start seeing a ton more selected. And with Washington, I see them selecting Carter George, maybe the most balanced goaltender of this draft class. He's somebody that I don't think is stupendous in any one direction, but a good glove hand and makes some big timely saves. I think the Capitals will go for the easy choice here. Next up at 53, and this is a spot that I could see the Predators really stealing a pick here in Alphonse Frey, an offensive D that I do see dropping just because he likes to make some weird defensive mistakes here and there, and his physical traits aren't really there yet, but he's someone that I think just has so much pace, so much quickness in his transition ability, and he's someone that I think the Preds would love to have on their defense, especially as a project going forward. Now, 54th overall in New York Islanders, they'll go for another Islanders pick and go for Marek Vanacker, somebody that I do like quite a bit and is actually in my first round. I do see him dropping because of the injury issues and the U18s that he had, but I do think he's somebody that still brings a great shot to him, jumps in the rush at the perfect times, and just very calculated in the way he plays the game. And I think for the Islanders, they could get a really solid middle six piece here. Next up at 56th overall, and actually, or at 55th overall, we got another Preds pick here. They got Alphonse Frey already, and I think they're going to go for another offensive European D in Aron Kiviharju. Now, this would be fun. Having Frey and Kiviharju on the same team would be incredible. I think Kiviharju is mostly led by the IQ and the fantastic passing ability. Outside of that, I'm not really sure about the physical traits or the skating, especially when he's trying to attack on the rush, but he's someone that I think has a couple of really good traits that Nashville could build around. Now we keep going at 56th overall. I think St. Louis is going to take another D here in Gabriel Eliasson. I think his decision making is absolutely horrid. He is somebody that just has no idea where he is sometimes, but I think because of the physical traits and the skating ability and some offensive talent there, I think he'll still go in the top 2 rounds, and he's someone that I think St. Louis will want to have as a project going forward in their system to hopefully build into a bottom pair D, but that's the best I see him becoming, and that's probably a little bit rich for me too. At 57th overall, the Montreal Canadiens, they have taken a lot of forwards in this draft, but to me, they're just going to go for the best players available, and at 57th, I think they're going to end up selecting Brody Ziemer. I think with how Kent Hughes has prioritized the NCAA, and just how much the Habs have prioritized NTDP players recently, I think Brody Ziemer will be a fantastic bottom 6 player for them. He is so driven, so smart, and especially with the puck, it's just very simple. He plays the game in such a concise way, in a pro way already. He doesn't force plays. He makes the right decisions. I think especially as a third line player, you could get a lot worse than Ziemer. At 58th overall, I think Anaheim will continue to add to their defense, getting Spencer Gill. He's somebody that is just very physically imposing. He's violent. He can be really just consistent in his own end. I don't think there's much more than that, but he was somebody that was able to have a couple of good plays here and there with his passing ability. I do like Gill. I think at this spot, it wouldn't be where I would take him, but I still think there could be some potential to unlock, especially with the age too. Very young for this draft class. Next up at 59th overall, I think Nashville's going to go for a little bit more of a floor here. Next up in Kamil Bednarik. He's somebody with the pro traits, with the center ability. He's somebody that just brings so much of the game that I just see becoming like a 600 plus NHL gamer. He's just somebody that just brings a lot of pro attributes. He's ready. He's consistent. He's physically imposing. He just knows where to be and make the simple play. He is never going to wow you, never going to be a core part of your team, but is always going to be a great depth piece. At 60th overall, we continue on to the goaltenders, and the Carolina Hurricanes will end up selecting Emil Vinny, who to me is the best goaltender of this draft. For me, for the Canes, it's not much of a problem. They have a lot of goaltenders in the system. I think they just go for the best player available and hope that some of them work out. And in Vinny's case, he's somebody that brings a lot of potential. And even though I do think he needs to work on his strength and conditioning, that's something that will improve as he gets even more seasons in the pros. I think they're just going to bet on potential here and potentially get a starter in the end. Going on to number 61, the Islanders will do the same, getting Ilya Nabokov, who I think, of course, with their Russian goaltender history, makes a lot of sense. He's one of the oldest players in this draft with a 21-year-old birth date, but he's someone in the KHL that had a beautiful season this last year, and the Isles might want to bet big. Next up at 62nd overall, we go to the Calgary Flames. Flames again. I think they're going to go for a defenseman again, and I think it'll be Colton Roberts, somebody that's just very simple, and I think with the agility, the mobility he has I think a decent floor. I don't think he's going to be anything special, but I think the Flames just want to get bigger on the defense, and Roberts does accomplish that. And going on to the last few picks, next up at 63rd overall, I think the Seattle Kraken are going to go for a goalie and go for Ryerson Linders, somebody that I like quite a bit and is actually my #1 North American goalie. He's just somebody that just brings a great balance to the game, but also having more potential than more people are letting on. He makes some big saves, he's quiet, he's effective, he's sturdy, and a lot like Wallstedt, the poise there is what really drives him up for me. And I think for the Kraken, especially in the late second, it's a pretty good pick to make. Next up at 64th overall, this is actually the Oilers' first pick of the draft. I think they're going to go for Matvei Gridin, who in the USHL they've gone for before. Kind of reminds me of a Matvei Petrov situation where they're going to go for this interesting Russian forward in North America. Could go to University of Michigan, could stay in the OHL. We'll see what happens there. But in Gridin's case, he's somebody that's just really solid up the rush. He's somebody that with his size is able to use it well and has a really great shooting ability, able to get in front of the net very effectively. And he's somebody I think especially the Oilers would want to have with the physical traits he has and the potential there could be. And then we go on to the last pick of the draft at 65th overall for the Utah Hockey Club. I see them selecting a goalie and going for Pavel Moisevich, who, of course, with their Russian connections, I think they'll love to have. He is an overager, but tremendous size and already has adapted to the KHL incredibly well. I think Utah will just want to add to their goaltending team in the future, and Moisevich would be a really interesting bet. Okay, that was my top 65 NHL mock draft. That was a big doozy, but I want to know in the comments down below what you guys thought of my picks. What did you agree? What did you disagree with? And where would your mock draft go? What do you think is going to happen? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and share it with all the hockey fans you guys know online to get the complete mock draft out to them. And click on this card for all my 2024 draft content. I am going to go sleep for a ton of hours, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.